The assassin got out of the car, carrying the pump-action shotgun in the bag, and walked across the fields.
3 lines in the decision log that consigned 2 innocent men to 25 years in prison. On Monday the 15th of January 1996, just a month after the murders of Patrick Tate, Craig Rolfe and Anthony Tucker, a man named William George Jasper was arrested and taken to Forest Gate Police Station in East London. On arrival, he asked to speak with a detective. A Met DC took Jasper into the backyard for a cigarette, and Jasper immediately stated that he was in fear for his life and that he was next. He went on to explain how he'd driven a well-known violent and dangerous criminal to Rettendon on the night of the murders, and that he'd dropped the assassin off in Rectory Lane near 2 gates at about midnight. The assassin had crossed the field to the murder scene armed with a pump-action shotgun and a backup Browning pistol. The assassin returned after about 30 to 40 minutes carrying a second holdall with 4 kilograms of cocaine that had been stolen from the murdered men. Jasper was then directed to Morton's Wine Bar in Woodford, likely Mortimer's Wine Bar, where the cocaine was handed over to another man. The account given by Jasper was compelling, and as a result the Met DC contacted the Essex Police Murder Squad. A DS Sanford and PC Chappell from the Essex Police attended Forest Gate Police Station and also spoke with Jasper, who repeated his account. The officers then asked Jasper to take them to the scene. The Met DC and Sanford took Jasper out in a police car. It was a dark evening and the weather was atrocious. The officers kept detailed notes. Jasper stated he'd picked up a stolen grey Fiat Uno Turbo car on false plates from outside a gym in Canning Town at about 8 p.m. on the night of the murders. Jasper directed the officers to Palms Motel on the A127, where he stated that he'd picked up the assassin. The assassin had a head bag with a pump-action shotgun inside. The assassin had directed Jasper to a taxi company at the rear of Upminster Station, where they met another man who handed the assassin a 14-shot Browning pistol. He took the officers there and pointed out the taxi firm. The taxi firm was owned by an associate and rival of Tucker. That person also ran the doors at the Palms Motel. Jasper then directed the officers to a pub car park in Battlesbridge. Jasper stated that on the evening of the murders that he and the assassin had waited and taken cocaine in that car park. Jasper told the officers that he'd been told to drive off at about midnight and that he'd followed the assassin's directions, having never been to the area before. He directed the officers to the B1012 Woodham Road, significantly away from Rettendon. He drove past Workhouse Lane twice while directing the officers. As he drove along Woodham Road, he told the officers to turn left by some green houses into an unmade single-track road called Rectory Lane. The assassin had directed him on the night. Jasper was following the same route based on the street furniture and his recollection of the houses. Jasper directed them down Rectory Lane, stating there were 2 gates ahead on either side, and that was where he dropped off the assassin. Sure enough, the gates existed. According to Jasper, the assassin had got out of the car for a short while before returning to collect the bag and guns. Jasper stated the assassin then crossed the fields at this point. Jasper had turned the car around and waited. After about 30 to 40 minutes, the assassin returned and directed Jasper back to the wine bar in Woodford. The assassin had called the man who handed him the pistol in Upminster, stating he had killed them. Jasper directed the officers by a different route that they had returned on the night. Jasper explained that the stolen cocaine was the law to get the victims down the lane. It had been arranged a week before in a meeting at Morton's Wine Bar, when he had been offered £5,000 to drive. The initial discussion had been about killing the men, but they had settled on a robbery. The motive, according to Jasper, and pieced together from overheard conversations, was a contract put out by a major criminal because Tucker had taken £300,000 from a gang of armed robbers and failed to repay it. The money was the robbery proceeds, and Tucker had been asked to launder it throughout Essex nightclubs where he'd managed the doors. The robbery has now been identified as a cash-in-transit robbery in Hainault. The motive is now known to be related to £140,000 stolen by Tucker. Jasper was returned to Forest Gate Police Station, and the next day an application was made for a 3-day laydown by Essex Police. Jasper did not challenge it. the following day was transferred to Raleigh Police Station. He was interviewed 3 times on tape, and on one occasion the tapes broke. The officers made detailed notes of the comments made by Jasper during the drive to the scene. He also wrote his own 12-page statement. On day 3 again, he took the officers to Rectory Lane. On this occasion, he made admissions he knew what the assassin intended to do. Effectively, he admitted conspiracy to murder and murder at this point. Despite this, later that day, Jasper was returned to the Met. On the 18th of January 1996, D.I. Harrison of the Essex Police Retterdon Murder Squad recorded the following in the investigation decision log. Jasper has to date given 3 different accounts of his involvement in this case. None of the accounts can be corroborated in any way and do not fit in with the current investigation direction and evidence already available in relation to this incident. In 3 lines, the decision writes off the Jasper evidence and effectively prevents any further investigation of it. It states that Jasper had given 3 different accounts of the murders. That is not correct. His account was consistent throughout, becoming increasingly more detailed. The decision was taken by someone who either did not read the interviews, officers' notebooks from the scene visits, or the 12-page handwritten statement. D.I. Harrison now states she has never heard of Billy Jasper or his account. The decision log is signed off by Detective Superintendent Dibley on the 18th of the 1st, 96. Detective Superintendent Dibley now accepts it is his signature, but again claims he has never heard of Billy Jasper or his evidence. Jasper's evidence was never tested or even checked. The 2 Essex police interviewing officers had failed to spell the assassin's name correctly throughout the entire period and clearly had done no checks with the Met. Jasper not only gave detailed compelling evidence about the Retterdon murders, but also about the murder of Nick Whiting. Operation Tiberius records Jasper later being shot by the man he named as responsible. The facts of the Whiting murder have now been confirmed as correct by the TMI Murder and Serious Crime Review team. Essex Police likewise failed to inform the Kent Police Squad dealing with the Whiting murder about this vital evidence. The armed robbery motive has likewise been investigated by the TMI team and confirmed as correct. The true motive is now known to relate to Tucker stealing £140,000, part of the robbery proceeds. Rolf and Tate were collateral damage. The armed robbers were associates of the assassin. One owned a bar with him in Loughton. Those named by Jasper were and are major criminals linked to organised crime and police corruption. Operation Tiberius refers. 2 weeks before the trial of Steele & Wombs, the defence found out about Jasper. Minimal disclosure was given by the Crown. The defence asked Jasper to give evidence. He agreed. He gave evidence but was stopped shortly into his account. The judge rules his evidence hearsay and most of it subsequently inadmissible. Neither the defence, judge or jury were ever aware of the compelling background to Jasper's account or real motive. Had Essex police bothered to look, they would have found out within their own files was the corroboration for the Jasper account. Had the jury been aware of the Jasper evidence in full, it is doubtful they would have convicted the car mechanic Jack Wombs with no motive or history of violence, or the man with a solid alibi, Michael Steele.